Have you ever caught yourself doing something and thought, damn, I sound just like my parents right now? That moment when you realize you're repeating patterns you swore you'd never continue. If you think about something in your family that keeps showing up generation after generation, maybe it's a divorce, addiction, money struggles, or just ways of communicating that never seem to change. Can you feel how that pattern has shaped your own life? When you look at Nick Cannon's situation, having multiple children with different partners, and then connecting it to his fear after his lupus diagnosis, what you're witnessing is something that's probably operating in your own life right now. The wounds we don't heal don't just stay with us, they become the inheritance we pass down to our kids. And this isn't about judging Nick, it's about all of us. If you think about your own family patterns, have you noticed how certain struggles seem to repeat through generations? Have you wondered why some cycles seem impossible to break, no matter how much you want to? Today, I'm going to break down how unhealed trauma doesn't just mess with your life, it shapes your children's reality and potentially their children's lives too. And more importantly, how recognizing these patterns is the first step to making sure your wounds don't become your legacy. Let's explore 3 powerful truths about intergenerational trauma that could completely transform your family's future. First, understand that your unhealed wounds don't stay contained within you. They become the patterns your children inherit. So when Nick openly admitted that his pattern of having multiple children with different partners came from his fear of being diagnosed with lupus, he wasn't just making excuses. He was recognizing that what therapists call trauma response, how our unprocessed pain creates behaviors that expand or extend beyond our individual lives. This isn't unique to Nick. It's happening in your family right now. We all carry wounds that shape our choices, and those choices create the environment our children grow up in. And if you take a moment right now to think about a pattern in your family that keeps showing up after generation after generation, maybe it's relationship struggles, financial problems, addiction issues, or communication styles that never seem to change. Can you trace how that pattern has moved through your family tree? That continuation isn't random. It's what psychologists call intergenerational transmission. The wounds that weren't healed in one generation becomes the lived reality in the next. So ask yourself, what unaddressed or unaddressed pain from your past might be shaping your current behaviors? And now consider this: how might those behaviors be creating patterns that your children are absorbing? The anger issue you haven't addressed. Look closer at how your kids might be learning that's how emotions work. That fear of abandonment you never healed. Notice how it might be creating clingy relationships that your children are witnessing as their relationship template. The impact of your unhealed wounds directly corresponds with how unconscious they remain. So the less aware you are of how your past shapes your present choices, the more likely those patterns will become the next generation. This isn't about blame, it's about recognition. My second insight is that healing wounds isn't just self-care, it's the most important gift you can give your children. Okay, so Nick's public acknowledgement of how his fear influenced his choices represents the crucial first step in breaking cycles, recognizing the pattern. So when he connected his behavior to his trauma response, he demonstrated what therapists call pattern recognition, seeking the link between past wounds and present behaviors. Your healing journey works the same way. If you think about a pattern you've recognized in your self that echoes something from your family history, maybe you handle conflict the same way your parents did. Maybe you have similar relationship struggles. These recognitions aren't random insights, they're opportunities to interrupt cycles that have perhaps continued for generations. If you take a moment to reflect on your pattern or your family pattern you've started to recognize in your own life, what would it mean if you were the one to finally break this cycle? What might change for your future generations if this pattern stopped with you. The spiritual significance of healing is profound. What you heal in yourself doesn't just transform your life, it changes the inheritance of every generation that comes after you. Your courage to face your wounds creates what family therapists call pattern interruption, the sacred moment when ancestral cycles that have continued for generations finally meet conscious awareness. Have you ever considered that the healing work you're doing isn't just for yourself? Imagine that. It's not just for yourself. This doesn't mean taking on more burden at all. It means recognizing that the self-work you're already doing has more significance than you might have realized. And the third truth about intergenerational patterns is that you can't change what you don't first acknowledge. So the thing is, have you noticed how some people can point out everyone else's issues while remaining completely blind to their own similar patterns? This isn't coincidence. It's the denial trap. It's a psychological blind spot that keeps family patterns continuing generation after generation. The fact that Nick's willingness to publicly connect his behavior to his fear demonstrates the courage required for real transformation. By acknowledging the link between his trauma and his choices, he's demonstrating what therapists call conscious awareness, the essential first step without which no change is possible. So think about a pattern in your family that everyone knows exists, but nobody talks about. How has that silence allowed the pattern to just continue? What trauma remains unnamed? It doesn't disappear, or I should say, when trauma remains unnamed, it doesn't just disappear, it goes underground and continues to operate from the shadows. So ask yourself honestly, what pattern might you be continuing simply because you haven't yet fully acknowledged its presence in your life? This isn't unique to Nick. Remember, it's happening in your family right now in ways you've likely been unable to recognize. The patterns we don't acknowledge are precisely, I should say, the ones most likely to continue to the next generation. And this explains why family issues often persist despite our best intentions, and why relationship dynamics repeats despite conscious desires for something different, and why certain struggles seem to follow family lines despite everyone's efforts to change. And notice how this plays out in your own life, most importantly, and how hard it is to see your own patterns compared to recognizing everyone else's contributions to family dynamics. Now let's transform this awareness into power. Understanding intergenerational patterns isn't about blaming your parents or feeling guilty. It's about what about what you might pass on, let's say. It's about liberation from cycles that have perhaps continued for generations. So first, reframe your healing journey as a gift, okay? A gift to future generations rather than just personal work. Your commitment to addressing your wounds isn't selfish. It's perhaps the most generous act you can offer those who come after you. Okay, the next time you do the hard work or you do the hard work of therapy, self-reflection, or healing practice, try this perspective. This isn't just for me. This is for my children and potentially their children. This reframe doesn't add pressure, it adds purpose to the challenging work of facing your wounds. Imagine moving through your healing journey with this new understanding. You know, your work to address your patterns isn't just personal growth, but sacred interruption, I should say, of cycles that might otherwise continue indefinitely. The difficulty doesn't diminish, it gains meaning through its intergenerational impact. When you find yourself thinking, why bother with all this healing work? Just gently remind yourself, because what I don't heal might become what my children inherit. This isn't about guilt, but honest recognition of how patterns continue when left unaddressed. And second, practice conscious pattern interruption with this 3-step process. Name the pattern specifically, be honest And I know I just picked up on someone watching this or about to watch this, and I got emotional because I feel it's going to hit. Just felt that in my gut right there, guys. I'm going to leave that. It's raw and cut. All right. So second, practice conscious pattern interruption with this 3-step process. Name a pattern specifically. Be honest instead of vague recognition. Identify exactly what continues. In my family, we avoid difficult conversations. We use substances to cope with feelings, or we prioritize achievement over emotional connection. Trace its path through generations. Look at how this pattern has moved through your family line. Where did it likely originate? How has it manifested in different generations? How has it shown up in your own life? Create intentional moments of pattern interruptions as well. When you notice the pattern arising in your behavior, pause and consciously choose a different response. This interruption might feel uncomfortable at first or even wrong because the familiar pattern has been normalized through generations. Okay? Try this practice with one of your family patterns. What specific pattern have you identified? How has it moved through generations, and what would a conscious interruption of this pattern look like in your daily life? And third, recognize that breaking generational patterns rarely happens through individual effort alone. The most effective healing often occurs through what therapists call supported transformation, change that happens with appropriate guidance and community. So when you feel that pull towards familiar patterns, remember that seeking support isn't weakness. It's wisdom about how intergenerational healing actually occurs. Let me share what's possible when you commit to breaking these ancestral cycles. Imagine if Nick's recognition of his pattern becomes not just awareness, but transformation. If his understanding of how fear shaped his choices leads to different decisions moving forward. This shift wouldn't erase what's happened, but would create new possibilities for his children's future. A transformation that would impact not just his life, but generations to come. And the possibility, or the same possibility awaits your relationship with family patterns. You know, when you heal your wounds, you don't just transform your experience, but potentially inheritance of every generation that follows. What once moved unconsciously through family lines now meets conscious awareness that creates choice where there was only automatic continuation. Your healing creates a different future for those who come after you. When you recognize this truth, family patterns transform from inevitable inheritance into potential for conscious choice. And this understanding doesn't diminish the challenge of breaking cycles. It transforms its meaning from personal struggle to sacred interruption. Your work to address family patterns doesn't become easier through this awareness. It becomes more meaningful through recognition of its intergenerational impact. So think about how this might transform your approach to your own healing. When you recognize that addressing your wounds impacts future generations, the difficult work of facing your pain gains purpose beyond personal growth. This doesn't add pressure, but perspective that honors the true significance of your healing journey. And the same transformation awaits your family's future. So when you commit to addressing the patterns you've inherited, you create a possibility for what family therapists call generational liberation. Freedom from cycles that have perhaps continued for centuries. So this week, I challenge you to identify one family pattern you've positioned to interrupt and take one conscious action to break that cycle. And notice how this intention doesn't add burden, but purpose to healing work you might already be doing. And remember that what you once saw as just your personal issues become your opportunity for ancestral healing. What once seemed like just your individual wounds become your invitation to transform your family's future. What once felt like just your private struggle becomes your chance to say to generations yet unborn, this pattern, it stops with me. The power was never just in healing yourself. It was always in transforming what your children and their children might inherit. So as always, stay beautiful, stay connected, and stay conscious in the field.